to another episode of the NCA Tutor. In this episode, we'll be discussing costs to help you budget for the NCA licensing process as well as the lawyer licensing process in Ontario. As mentioned in a previous video, there are two lawyer licensing processes that every internationally trained lawyer has to go through in order to become a licensed lawyer in Canada. The first is the federal licensing process known as the NCA process, and the second is the lawyer licensing process for any provincial or territorial bar that you would like to practice with. By way of example, we'll be using the Ontario lawyer licensing process to help you make a budget. So first and foremostly, the NCA process comes with a registration fee, which is $450. Every exam is $400. As mentioned previously in a different video, there are 5 mandatory courses that every internationally trained lawyer or law student has to complete. So you want to budget for around $2,000 if you're writing 5 exams and $2,800 for 7 exams. For the purposes of this video, we'll be looking at 5 to 7 exams to help you kind of ballpark what you should expect to budget for the NCA process. So, registration fees, $450, every exam, $400, and then textbook costs. Textbook costs can vary from $75 to $200 depending on the textbook. From our research, the lowest budgeted textbook was $75, and that's a newly purchased textbook, and the most expensive one was $200. So we've budgeted for around every textbook to be about $150. So you're going to want to budget for around $750 to $1,050 depending on whether you're writing 5 to 7 exams. Please be mindful though that every course has a different number of textbooks and different costs for each textbook, and this is just a ballpark range for how much you should anticipate to budget for the textbooks. You should also perhaps look at purchasing second-hand textbooks to help you when it comes to costs. There are additional fees that you might want to take into consideration, such as cancellation fees. Currently, cancellation fees are $50. So if you decide that you don't want to pursue your exam coming in November, you look to cancel it, there's a cost for that. There are some additional fees that are not mandatory, but you'd like to also budget for, such as course notes. With the NCA Tutor, our course notes are $60. So you'd like to budget for about $300 to $420 if you're writing 5 to 7 exams. And hopefully that gives you a good range of, how much you should budget for the NCA licensing process if you're doing 5 to 7 exams. Just to give you a refresher, it's $450 for registration fees, $400 for each exam, $150 for textbooks, and then you're looking at $60 for each course note. So if you're writing 5 to 7 exams, you want to budget for about $3,500 to $4,300 when it comes to the NCA process. Once you've successfully completed the NCA process and now you've obtained your certificate of accreditation and you're ready to pursue the lawyer licensing process in whichever provincial or territorial bar you'd like to practice with, you would have to also register with them, and there's a cost for that. In Ontario, that cost is $160. So once you've registered as a lawyer licensing candidate with the Law Society of Ontario, you can now commence the 2 components in order to become a licensed lawyer with the province of Ontario. Those 2 components are the bar exam, as mentioned in a previous video, as well as the experiential component, which can be completed either through the traditional articles of clerkship or the law practice program that is administered through Ryerson University or the University of Ottawa, the French version. So it is $2,800 for the experiential component. If you are with a firm and that firm is kind enough, perhaps they will cover that cost for you if you are doing the traditional articles of clerkship. If you are doing the law practice program, you would have to pay the $2,800 out of pocket. For the bar exam, each exam is $600 and the materials are $150. So you want to budget for $750 for each of the barrister and solicitor exams, so that's $1,500 for both exams. That's including the cost of materials as well as the $600 to actually write the exam. There are additional add-ons that you should also take into consideration when doing the Ontario lawyer licensing process. For example, some people like to use indices when they're doing the bar exam. The NCA Tutor's indice is about $100, which is quite reasonable. Other indices can vary in terms of their prices, so that's something you'd also may want to budget for. Other additional add-ons are bar exam prep courses, which can vary from $1,000 to more. Something that I found really useful is practice exam questions for the bar exam. That can also vary from $100 to $350 depending on who you purchase them from and how many bar exam questions you purchase. But that's something that you should also be mindful of when creating a budget for the lawyer licensing process. So based on the budget that we've created for the purposes of this video, the basic amount without any add-ons, so no courses, no additional practice exam questions, you're looking at around $7,000 for both the NCA process as well as the Ontario lawyer licensing process. And you're looking at about $8,000 if you're doing 7 exams. Now, if you want to take into consideration a budget with some add-ons like course notes for the NCA or bar exam questions for the licensing process, you want to budget for about $9,000 if you're writing 5 exams and probably about $10,000 if you're writing 7 exams. This is just the basic total amount that you should budget for, and as mentioned before, there are other ancillary fees that you should also take into consideration, such as cancellation fees, late registration fees for the lawyer licensing process, which is currently $75 with the Ontario lawyer licensing process. Cancellation fees for the NCA is $50. If you decide to defer your bar exam, there's other costs included in that. As mentioned earlier, there are different costs for textbooks, and that can vary. So this is just a very basic overview of how much you should probably budget for the NCA as well as the lawyer licensing process. We hope that you found this beneficial, and all the best on your journey of becoming a licensed lawyer in Canada.